What's up, y'all? Today I got all the books I read in January. This is definitely a bigger month than the other months. I got more books here. I'd say overall though, this is a pretty good month for books for me. A lot of the stuff I liked, even the stuff I didn't like hate. You know what I mean? Which I feel like sounds not very positive, but when I feel like I read a lot of books, and when you read a lot of books, some of them just miss, and I'd rather be on that side than the guy who like didn't try a book and it turned out to be sick. So, anyways, we'll get straight to it. We got Asadora here by Naoki Urasawa. This is one of the few mangas that I have read. I don't really read that much manga. I feel like I have a hard time with like translated books a lot of the time. Like the way they're written is a little clunky. I feel like I read fast, and I feel like sometimes the rhythm of the writing is just different, just because it's translated. Which isn't the fault of the creator at all, but that's just me. I really want to read some Urasawa. I really want to give a 20th Century Boys a shot because I know that's good by him. But I heard like the short pitch for this book, and I was interested, so I gave it a go. Bought this, I think, off like Amazon or something for pretty cheap. Not too bad. I mean, manga books, I feel like they're always pretty affordable. This one follows Asa. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced, but that's this girl here. She lives in a Japanese town that's like right on the ocean. She's part of a big family. You kind of learn little bits about her personality. She's kind of like very outgoing, very driven young girl. And then a huge storm hits her town, and at the same time, she is. I don't want to. It kind of spoils this first book. It's not a spoiler as much as like just this is what got me in. This is what got me into this book. Was that Asa is kidnapped by a guy who thinks that she's a doctor's daughter, and he's gonna like try and like ransom her back to her dad. And obviously Asa is not the doctor's daughter, right? But he thinks she is. So he starts to ransom her back. Then in the middle, he like starts to go soft, and he's like, you're a nice kid. What am I doing? I'm not a criminal. This isn't who I am." And when he goes to like return her, a huge like tsunami has hit the town, and that's kind of what the deal is. This is a side character. I don't really get what's going on with him. I don't remember his name. Y'all know I don't know characters' names when I'm doing these. But yeah, I mean this really is just set up in this first volume, which is kind of crazy. But it feels like it's mostly in place for you to kind of get a feel of the town. You get a little bit of a vibe check on Asa, who she is. You meet this kidnapper, who turns out is a pretty nice guy. Maybe just misunderstood. I don't know. Yeah, it's fun. I don't usually like these books that are so like grounded and real, and this is really so far. I mean, there's like a hint that there's maybe something more going on here, but this is all like really grounded work of just like the city after this disaster. I liked it though. I don't know, like getting the next volume of this probably isn't on the top of my list. So I don't know the next time I get an update on this, but Asadora I thought was pretty good. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Up next, we got Free for All by Patrick Horvath. This I got off of Zoop, which is kind of like a Kickstarter-esque website. This is the same guy who wrote and drew Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I've been following him on Instagram forever. The story seemed interesting, so I gave it a go. It's just pretty short, so I'm not going to show you guys all that much. But it's about, like, in this world, there's billionaires. Every billionaire gets their name put in a lottery. And if your name's selected from the lottery, you either have to give up half of all of your, like, money, or, like, I don't know what you would call it, things of value. You have to give up half of your net worth, or you can go into an arena and fight to the death to keep all of your money. It's a logical solution. And it follows kind of this main dude who's in the arena and has been there for a long time, and then his like next opponent. This is what I'll say without giving anything away. You can definitely tell that this is like earlier work from him. His Beneath the Trees stuff is definitely better. It's still kind of freaky shit going on here because that seems to be who he is. It's good. I feel like his action in this book, like the actual artwork itself, is a little clunky and odd. and he seems to be like just more interested in kind of like the gore of it than like the actual movement. And that just might be a him thing. I'm a little nervous to keep rolling through these pages because it gets pretty gnarly pretty quick. But it's a short book. I thought it was pretty fun. I think that like setup is interesting, if nothing else. This book I don't think blew me away. I don't think it's anything to write home about. But it was cool. It was cool. I mean, you know, it was not expensive. Short book. What's to lose? I'd give this one like a low 3 out of 5. Up next, we got Breath of Bones by Steve Niles, Dave Wachter. We're gonna go for Matt Santoro and Nate Piekos. This again is a very short one. It's now listen. I'm a sucker for the Golem. Your boy's Jewish. This looks like a very Jewy story. I had to get it. I think the Golem's a very cool idea for like a monster, for lack of a better term. So I was in. You know, I'm a mark for this book. I'm gonna buy this book 10 times out of 10. Dave Wachter's art is sick. Steve Niles' writing, I think, works. You know, I think it's pretty good. It's like subtle. I feel like this book is like not underwritten, but he's it's definitely not overwritten. You know what I'm saying? Like he's trying to keep it pushing a little bit. He's not trying to put 100 words on the page. Well, this might be a bad example. There's a lot of words on these pages, but like the dialogue is pretty sparse, and I think that everything written down here is like the necessary bits. He's like stripped it down to the bare minimum of what could be written here and still keep the effect that he's going for, which I think is really impressive. His art is so sick. The whole book is black and white like this, but he's really good. I really like his style, especially stuff like this. The little watercolor washes, or probably ink wash, probably not watercolors. Black and white. What am I saying? It's cool. Again, this is just like a good short story, man. I like this one better than Free for All for sure. But this is more like, if you've seen some of my older videos, then you've probably seen some of these short ones. I'm trying to think. There's the Joe Sparrow book, Homunculus, was like this. It's just like, it's a short read, and you're not going to lose anything by reading this. It's good. It's solid. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's like a cool short story that I think appropriately fits in comics. I think that this is one of those stories that if you went for like a TV or a movie or you went all text, that you'd be losing something from this, you know? I think it's very aptly made for comics. It follows this boy. He's in a village. This is during World War II. Nazis are on the rise. They're worried they're going to come to his village, and a fighter pilot and his jet crash near his hometown. And it kind of follows. They're like panicked because the smoke's going up, so that means people are going to know someone crashed here, and it goes from there. Without me saying too much else, don't want to spoil it. It's a short story. I would recommend everybody give it a shot. You know? Why not? I feel like this is a cool book. I have never heard of this. This was like a random, just scrolling on the internet, found this one. But Breath of Bones, I think it's like good. It's not going to like blow you away. Probably like a high 3 out of 5. So the other end for Free for All. I think that like you'd have to give this to someone who's got like a little bit of interest in like these, you know, historical fiction books. But I liked it. Up next, we have The Autumnlands, Tooth and Claw by Kurt Busiek and Benjamin Dewey, with Jordi Belair and Comicraft. This book, it's I really try with Kurt Busiek. I know that seems like kind of sacrilegious to say. Like if the real comics people are like Kurt Busiek's one of the goats, and I get it. I've tried a lot of his like independent stuff. Like I read the World War one that he did, where it was like a fantasy setting, and another one that I can't think of right now. But his it's Astro City. There you go. Read a little bit of Astro City. He kind of it takes a while to get into it. I feel like with his writing, and this book is no different. This kind of follows, it's like a big swing fantasy world. Everybody's animal, like these anthropomorphic animals. There's magic. They live in a floating city. It's crazy, right? Benjamin Dewey's art is sick. It also has these like breaks in it where it's like the painted background and then like a little bit of prose over here. Which I honestly don't love. I feel like that's hard to do. When I'm in comic book mode, I'm not trying to read a page of real books. I came here for pictures, damn it. I'm not here to read. But this book I thought was honestly, it got me by the end, but at the beginning I was really thinking about slowing down and stopping. It took me a while to get through this. It's kind of a slow burn just to understand everything about the world. And then once like stuff. Once you get into like the dangerous situation, the stuff kind of makes more sense. But I don't know. You follow this guy, but like, is he the main character? I don't know. You meet his dad. You meet all these people from the city. All this crazy shit happens. My boy Seven Scars is definitely in this quite a bit. It kind of wanders, I think, narratively. But I mean, if you're in for the big swing fantasy worlds, I know there's this and one other book, and that's it. Which I hopefully wraps it up. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be getting the second one. If I am, it's gonna be way down the road. It is not like on the top of my list at this moment. Benjamin Dewey's art is sick. I don't want that to take anything away from that. I don't think Kurt Busiek's writing is bad. I just don't. It just doesn't feel like anything's pushing me forward with this, you know? I don't feel the need to like keep going. I don't feel like I have to know what happens next. I'm fine either way. The character works pretty good. I like this warthog lady. She's kind of sick. There's a nasty owl dude. I don't know. It just wasn't doing it for me. It's definitely not bad. If you're one of these dense fantasy types, or you like to read like the dense fantasy books, maybe you'll like it too. I'm gonna give this one a low. I don't know. I wouldn't like probably a high 2 out of 5, which sounds harsh because the art's really good. I just don't know if this is one that I would like push to my friends. You know what I mean? Like give to other people. It's not bad though. Take my word for it, please. Up next, we got Batgirl Year One by Scott Beatty, Chuck Dixon, Marcos Martin, and Alvaro Lopez. Now, I got this book because it has the GOAT, Marcos Martin, doing the art, and I love him. Martin? Who's to say? Marcos? Sounds like a Martin. There was like a series of these Year One books. They did one for Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl. The way I understand it, people like this one the best. Plus, that's Marcos Martin, so we had to give it a go. I really like this book. It felt very much in the vein of like the old cartoons, like the Batman animated series type vibe. Like, look at these guys. These guys are goofy, but I love them. It definitely is a little bit like more. I was gonna say more adult, but like it's just like the danger is real. You know what I mean? Like these guys are like potent threats, and I feel like that makes the story better. Martin's like layouts and his composition for these panels is ridiculous. That guy is so good. The colors are kind of crazy. I think they work. I think there's some parts where they could get dialed back a little bit. Like these are kind of like super saturated for me, to be honest. But it's still very, very good. The character of Batgirl, who's Barbara Gordon. There we go. Barbara Gordon, I like her character a lot. She's like, I don't know, you just believe that she's like capable and smart and like a little dangerous. And like, I don't know, she's got like real, like, I believe in her as like a main character for this book. You know? And I love that. The story is kind of her becoming Batgirl, how she becomes Batgirl. It's involving Killer Moth in here and Firefly, I think are the villains. Batman and Robin are also in here, kind of like trying to see if she's really, you know, as tough as she seems. They're trying to see if she's real deal. And it's pretty fun. I think if you like any of the old, like the Justice League Unlimited and stuff like that, then you'll probably like this book. And I'm in the bag for shows like that. Justice League Unlimited was my jam. So Batgirl Year One, I really liked. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was fun. Oh, I want to mention this too. Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon co-write this, and I think that's crazy because it very much feels like one singular voice. And I felt like they could have gone for like way longer. Like this felt like they could have doubled the length of this book. I thought they were very good. I like this book. Batgirl Year One. Pretty solid, man. I like it. Up next, we got Dawn Runner. This is by Ram V. Illustrated by Evan Cagle. Colors by Dave Stewart. Also lettered by Aditya Bidikar and Francesco Segala. I don't know what he does. That seems like a lot of names. Oh, he also colors. There you go. This is a, like, I forget what it's called. Pacific Rim-esque book. It's in that genre. There are kaiju. There are big, giant robots being controlled by hotshot pilots. It's great. First thing, I mean, you're going to notice, is that Evan Cagle is out of his gourd, dude. Like, the line work on this stuff is ridiculous. You can't see that. The line work is ridiculous. This guy's out of his gourd. I've heard some criticism of this book that like some of his line work is like so good, but it gets like eaten up by the colors in here. Not something I noticed while I was reading it. But here, let me give you the gist of the book. Is that you're following this hotshot pilot. She's sick. I can't remember her name because I read this like a month ago. But here she is. We're following her. She is in the Dawn Runner, the new top of the line kaiju killing machine. And there's kind of this world around it where it's like televised, these kaiju fights. We don't know where they came from, but they're mostly contained, even though they keep coming through this like breach somewhere somehow. And so she is like their number one athlete for all of this. And we kind of like jump in. We watch her fight some of these things. And with this new mech that she's piloting, there's like this new system and interface and how it works with her. And when she locks into it, she starts to see kind of like the memories of this other person. And it's kind of like partially fighting kaijus, partially what's going on with her and this robot. Are these visions real? Was it like, what does it mean if these visions are real? How could these visions be real? Stuff like that. I really like this book. I did feel that sometimes Evan Kagel is so out of his gourd. I mean, look at that, bro. Come on. Come on, man. It's crazy. That Evan Kagel gets so, like, detailed in some of his art and some of these fights. It starts to hit like the Jeff Darrow level where there's like so much going on. I actually like there's too much detail in each one, and I'm just like looking at this page trying to like really soak it all in, which I feel like can disrupt the reading experience, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing. You know, really cool drawings of big monsters fighting. That's always good. There are also times where like the mechs are like the mech that she pilots is like really skinny, and it can be kind of hard to tell which way it's like facing. Or like what it's doing, like I assume it's kicking ass, but it can be difficult to see sometimes. There's this like super evil billionaire guy who runs a whole company and builds all the stuff. But I mean, look at this, dude. Look at that. That's a fucking kaiju right there, man. That's good stuff. Yeah, I think this book, written by Ram V, who I love. Love Ram V. Not everything by him do I love, but I love like Rare Flavors and Many Deaths of Layla Starr and all that. So I'm pretty in the bag for him, especially when he's doing like creator-owned stuff. I'm usually in off the rip. This one feels like it gets a little heady for me, where it's like I don't know if I'm smart enough to pick up what Ram V is putting down here, but it did not diminish my enjoyment of the book whatsoever. I was here for the vibes, and the vibes were on a million. Also, like, the characters are good, and, like, it all, like, I don't know, it felt great reading this book, you know? Sometimes when things are written just right, and it, like, meshes with my brain well enough, I've been, like, sitting and reading this on the couch for, like, 2 hours and didn't even realize it. Finished the whole book in one sitting, and this is a candidate for that. This artwork is sick, dude. Evan Kagel's out of his gourd. So good. Yeah, I mean, the artwork's sick. The story's cool. Again, I couldn't be the one to explain to you exactly what's happening in here, but the vibes are on a million. And I think that everyone would be a better man for reading this book. Dawn Runner, I would give a 4 out of 5. Up next, we have Anzuelo by Emma Rios. Written, drawn, colored, lettered, all by Emma Rios, I believe. Which we love. Yeah, she does literally all of it. Except edit herself. Because you can't edit yourself. It's not how it works. This book is really cool. The art style is cool. There's so many layouts where there's like a million panels on the page. This book feels maybe too artsy for me to understand. Dare I say, too emotionally in touch with itself for me to understand. Like, with Dawn Runner, when I'm reading it and I don't understand, I'm like, this feels like it's just above my pay grade. I don't think my brain is big enough to understand this. And this one, I kind of felt like my heart wasn't big enough to understand this, if that makes sense. I could not figure out what was going on. I felt like it was trying to be really impressionistic with it, but it also felt so scattered. And it felt like none of the actual like details and plot like matter in this book. It's like, if that's what you're looking for, then you're fucking stupid. Like, that's not what it's about. But that's what I look for, you know? I am the typical Western comics reader. Nothing was explained to me. So how do I know what's happening? Nothing is explicitly stated. On the real, though, I usually feel like I'm pretty good at figuring it out. And, like, for the first third of the book, well, at the beginning, I was like, I'm out. I don't understand what's happening. This doesn't make sense to me. Then it kind of picks up. And I was like, oh, shit, this is gas. And then I went through, like, the first third of the book. And I was like, maybe I didn't understand what was going on. And I got excited over something that's not happening here. Which, it sounds crazy to say for this book. Because there's, like, so many pages, right? And you think, Emma Rios, she seems to be a pretty accomplished artist herself. She wouldn't just be, you know, doing a bunch of crazy shit for however many hundreds of pages are in this book. But I couldn't figure it out, dude. So here's my understanding of what happens in this book. You follow this main kid named, what's his name? They all have pretty fun names in here. And now I can't remember it. There's Lucio, and he's not Lucio. There's this kid. He gets washed up. All of Earth is swallowed up by the ocean all at once. And when it happens, these three kids like wash up on the same beach, right? And they wash up here, and then when they wash up here, they start getting these new weird abilities. Like this guy can kind of teleport, kind of just disappear and then return when it feels like it. Like he calls it disappearing, or vanishing. There you go. He calls it vanishing. So you do what you want with that. But these kids live on this island. As far as they know, they're the only people left. They're these big, freaky, like, monster people living in the ocean that will drop animals and things off on this island that they're at. But other than that, they have to survive for themselves. So you're kind of following that as it's happening. And it goes over a very long period of time. Eventually, other people show up on this island. Not all of them have crazy abilities now, I don't think. But some of them do. And you kind of just follow what happened. It's like the world has ended through the ocean, and now this is happening. And it really follows these three main characters, even though more people like come and go as time goes on. And really, the whole time I'm reading it, as soon as I feel like I have it figured out, there's something drastically changes, and I go, maybe I don't have it figured out. Turns out I'm a fool, and I don't understand it all. I did not finish this book, but I am done with it. I probably made it, like, at least way past, probably like 4/5 done with this book, until I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I might be losing my mind. I don't know what to believe anymore. And I feel like that's set up for a story that I told you of, like, these are kids with magical abilities on an island after the world's been swallowed up by the ocean. Sounds sick. I really like that this book doesn't have, like they're not trying to save the world. No one is trying to save the world. There's nothing to beat. There's no bad guy. There's just things happening, and you kind of follow these kids through their life. I love that approach. I really do. However, I don't know. I couldn't keep up, bro. I couldn't keep up. This is one I'm going to rate it kind of low because it didn't work for me. However, I would recommend that if lots of other people go check out this book because I think it's obviously well made. She's definitely a skilled artist, definitely a skilled storyteller. It just didn't work for me. Anzuelo, I think I have to give a 2 out of 5 because I didn't even finish it myself. But like the artistry is there. Give this book a shot for yourself. I didn't get it, but maybe you will. And then you can tell me. You can explain to my small brain how this book works. Up next, we have Green Valley. It is written by Max Landis? Yeah, Max Landis, Giuseppe Camicoli, Cliff Rathburn, Jean-Francois Beaulieu, Pat Brousseau. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, and the rest of the people are editors. This book is a little bit older. I got this book used for a very good price. Buy used books. It's the way to do it. And this story takes place in the Middle Ages with some knights. You follow the Knights of Calodia. It's like they're a merry band, legendary knights. They're super cool. You know, these guys are an undefeated band. You follow them in this world. Something terrible happens. There's a horrible tragedy, and then they end up going to the small village to fight a wizard and a dragon. Except the twist is that wizards and dragons don't exist. Nobody believes that shit. You sound crazy saying that. So then that's like the bare bones setup to the story. I don't want to talk too much about it because I think it does spoil it. Even though I think it's like by the time you get to the twist, if you don't already understand what the twist is, I feel like that's on you, bro. Like, it's pretty. I think we all understand what's going on here. The art is beautiful. I think the coloring is spectacular, and I think this was Eisner nominated for its coloring as well as its writing. It's got a little bit of that, like, I don't know how to say this, like it's a early 2000s kind of buddy joke dialogue, if that makes sense. I feel like from like an action comedy made in the early 2000s, there's a vibe, which I'm not saying is a good or a bad thing, but that's what it feels like. I do feel like these guys are actually friends. I like their dynamic, even though it can be a little bit cliche, I want to say, at times. I really don't feel like I can talk too much about this book without giving a bunch of stuff away, and I don't really want to do that. But I don't know that I would. Like, you kind of have to turn your brain off to have fun with this one, alright? That I will say. The art's really good. I think the dialogue is well written. I think the story probably seemed like a really good idea when it came out, but now comes off as really dated. Yeah. That's all I want to say about the Green Valley. Yeah, not bad. I mean, I'll give it a low 3 out of 5. I still, like, enjoyed a lot of parts of this book. I just don't think it's like, it's not gonna make you think, not gonna leave you with feelings after the fact. You're just gonna read it and be like, oh, that was cool. And that's great, So we'll give it a 3 out of 5, like a low 3 out of 5 for Green Valley. Up next, we got Infinity 8 by Dominique Bertel, Louis Trondheim, and Zepp. It's from Magnetic Press. Peep the corners, rounded corners. You know the deal. This is a sci-fi book, very much in the vein of like that old school European, like, I feel like 80s sci-fi. It's got a sense of humor about it, which I don't think all of them do. Dominique Bertel, I follow on Instagram. I've always liked his work. I think his layouts in this book are really good. I think his alien work is also pretty good. It follows this... Ooh, what's her name? Follows her. She's like an officer aboard the Infinity 8, which is the name of the ship that they're on. And she is pretty much as sexed up as a sci-fi character as there's ever been. I mean, this is her uniform, bro. You know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. And it doesn't shy away from it. There's not a shot in this book that doesn't have all of her boobs out. So, pro or con, you tell me. That is how it is. We follow her. She has to go on this mission. We come to find out that the captain of the ship is some kind of ancient alien that can, like, rewind time, but only for 8 hours. And he can do it 8 times, perhaps. That sounds right. And so her mission, they send her on a mission to go out and investigate this field of space that they're a part of, and to go and see, like, what the deal is. Then the idea is she will come back with this information. The boss will rewind time, and they will use that information to clue in and maybe send someone out again to figure out what the full deal is. So it's like a little convoluted, but I was here for it. I liked it. I think that the writing, like, this is obviously translated, like a lot of the Magnetic Press stuff is. And I said before how the rhythm of translated dialogue can sometimes throw me off, and this one did not. I thought I had a sense of humor. There's some stuff that's a little corny, but if you can forgive it and not hold it, against itself, then I think it's really fun. And I will probably be getting more of these. I had a blast with this book. I thought it was very fun. Very similar to how I felt about that book, Tao Bang. Or it's just a good time, man, Like, this is the stuff I'm here for. Like, weird sci-fi swings, I'm here for it all day. I'll read as many of these you put out. So, I don't want to give too much away. It's really lighthearted. It's really fun. There's still some pretty gnarly... Oh, let's not get myself in trouble here. There's lots of, like, gags while also still having lots of, like, pretty gnarly stuff go on in here. It doesn't shy away from, like, the violence or the blood or anything, which I always love in my books. It's pretty graphic. There's lots of gross dead stuff in this one. Would recommend. I think it's fun. Again, not going to change your life, but had a great time reading it. I would give Infinity 8 a high 3 out of 5. Up next, we got Lost Letters by Jim Bishop. This was a part of the same Kickstarter from the December video that My Dear Pierrot was from. Uh, Written and drawn by him. We love that. We love a writer artist as always. But between this and My Dear Piero, this was definitely the weaker book. I felt the other book dragged. This one, I felt the other book dragged in the middle. I feel like this one dragged like the whole way through. There's a lot of pages here and not that much happens. It's mostly talking, which we hate. Jim Bishop's art, of course, is very colorful. I think it's beautiful. I'm a big fan. Like this clownfish delivery man. He's great. We have this pelican. Pelican? That's a pelican. Surely it is. I don't know what else you call it. Who says yeah, and that's all he says. He's also great. This one, like, I'll be honest. The story itself, I really didn't like in this book. The art is very cool. I don't want to slander Jim Bishop. It seems like he does cool stuff. I love that he is making books, but this one was not for me. I actually don't know how much I really want to talk about it. It follows this kid in the city. He's looking for a letter from his mom, who he hasn't heard from him forever. When he goes to the city, he meets this girl who's wrapped up with the wrong people, and a fishbowl cop man. Let's see if we can get a picture. There's a girl, I forget her name. Where's Fishbowl Cop Man? There he is, Fishbowl Cop Man. And it's kind of like these three kind of blundering about, except I never believed that they liked each other. It just felt like they were bickering, which is a dangerous, it's a delicate line of the bickering people who slowly start to come around on each other. I don't feel like these guys liked each other for a second. I was not rooting for any of them to solve their problems. And I think because of that, I have to give this book 1 out of 5 sounds so harsh. We'll give it a 2. The art's good. The art's very good in this book. Maybe you'll like it. It just wasn't for me. I'll give this book a 2 out of 5. Last but not least, we have Once and Future by Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora. Tamara Bonvillain doing the colors. I had already read book 1 of the deluxe edition. So I reread it so that I could read book 2 because I had read the first one when it came out like years ago. It feels like now. And this book, one, I got nervous because this one is thicker than this one. You can't really tell. And I'm worried I'm going to shake the desk too much by doing all this. But this one, definitely thicker than the other one, which I was a little pissed about at first. But when I read it, it was fine. I had a lot of fun. I liked the first Once and Future book. I read it very early on my reading of comics. So it's one of the early ones that I read when I was really getting into it. And I thought it was out of this world sick. Dan Mora's art is ridiculous, and Tamara Bonvillain's colors, I think, really complement it. I believe they're still a duo on the stuff they're doing now, and that makes a lot of sense. For those who don't know, Once and Future is it's saying that all of the old, Arthurian legends and, all this English, folklore is real, but you kind of have to, play a part in order to make it happen. So you kind of have to fulfill these roles in order to make the myth come true. And someone does that with King Arthur. You want King Arthur to come back, but it turns out King Arthur is a giant death monster when he comes back. Unfortunately, and he hates anyone who's not British and real British. He says a lot about his hatred for Anglo-Saxons. So you go far enough back. I don't know who's British if those guys are out. Don't know how it works. And I feel like this book suffers a little bit from, I'm not super familiar with, these myths. King Arthur I heard about, Sword in the Stone I've heard about. But, I've seen the Green Knight movie, but I don't know the rest of the stuff. So it does treat you, the reader, like you already know a lot of these things, I think. But I didn't find it, confusing that I didn't know. I think it shows you enough that you can figure it out pretty quick. And either way, this is mostly a fun romp through all of these, where you kill lots of monsters. I actually like the second book more than the first one. I like the first one, but this one I thought was so fun. I think that if you're somebody who reads only superhero comics right now, this is the easiest intro you would get. This is basically a superhero comic where you just run into badder and badder villains and monsters, and they defeat them, and it's sick, and we all love it. I think that Kieran Gillen's writing here is pretty lighthearted. He's not... I don't think he's I think Kieran Gillen can get too wordy for me, personally, at times. And I think it happens sometimes in the story. But he like leans back on like the tone of the book, and it makes it very fun. Like the grandma in this book, I love her. I love all the trash she talks. I think that a lot of her jokes are very funny. I chortled out loud multiple times reading the second book. I really liked it. I liked how it all wrapped up. The stakes continue to get higher. Dan Mora continues to draw bigger and buffer monsters as time goes on. Yeah, the characters are great. I mean, there's no downside to this book. I think this is a good starter comic book for people. I think that if you found someone who had never read comics and you gave them one like this, they'd be like, "Oh, I get it now." You know? I don't think that this story is one that can gonna change your life, you know? So I'm not gonna give it a 5 out of 5 banger masterpiece. However, I thought it was very good. I had a good time with it, for however many pages it was. It was a lot. And so for that, I will give it a 4 out of 5. And I think that's well deserved. Also, this cover is sick, dude. Sick. You can see it because I got the light on it right now, but usually this is it blends into the black. You can only see it when it shines. So sick. So sick. All right. That is everything I read in the month of January. I know I went a little bit longer on this one, so I appreciate you guys if anybody's here at the end of the video. I'm going to try to get back on track here. Keep doing these once a month. I'm also thinking about doing spotlights on particular books, because usually I try to limit myself. I know every one of these was 5 minutes each, but usually I try to do less. So maybe doing 10, 15 minutes on just one book, I'd have a lot of fun doing. If you'd like to see something like that, maybe leave a comment. As always, please tell me what you are reading this month. I'm always looking for new recommendations. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Goodbye.